What if I told you that religion and politics in Africa are more connected than we think? That behind closed doors, conversations between Pope Leo and Zambia's former First Lady, Esther Lungu, may have shaped the destiny of not just Zambia, but Africa itself. This isn't just about faith, it's about power, betrayal, and the hidden forces that decide who rules, who falls, and who controls the future. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will shake both Zambia and the world. Religion and politics have always shaped Africa's destiny. But what happens when the Vatican, Zambia's leadership, and hidden power games collide? In this documentary, we explore the alleged secret link between Pope Leo, Esther Lungu, and the late Edgar Lungu's political legacy. From Lusaka to Rome, whispers of influence and betrayal are raising new questions about Zambia's future and Africa's struggle for independence against global power. Watch till the end as we break down the connections, the scandals, and the consequences. Subscribe to InspirAfrica Official for more deep investigations into African politics and global power. Pope, politics, and power? The intersection of religion, politics, and power is a timeless and complex phenomenon, particularly in regions where faith holds significant cultural and social sway, such as Africa. In Zambia, a predominantly Christian nation, the Catholic Church and its leaders, including the Pope, have historically played influential roles in shaping public discourse, governance, and societal values. This section explores how the papacy, as a global institution, interacts with political structures and power dynamics in Zambia, setting the stage for understanding the specific case of Edgar Lungu's presidency and its aftermath. The role of the Catholic Church in Zambia. Zambia is officially a Christian nation, as declared in its 1991 constitution, with over 95% of the population identifying as Christian, and Catholics making up approximately 20 to 25% of this group. The Catholic Church has been a significant player in Zambia's social and political landscape, particularly through its involvement in education, healthcare, and advocacy for social justice. The Church's influence stems from its moral authority, extensive institutional network, and historical engagement in pro-democracy movements, especially during Zambia's transition from one-party rule to multi-party democracy in the early 1990s. The papacy, as the spiritual and administrative head of the global Catholic Church, wields symbolic and practical influence in countries like Zambia. Popes, through their apostolic visits, encyclicals, and diplomatic engagements, can shape national conversations on issues such as poverty, governance, and human rights. For instance, Pope Francis, during his papacy 2013 to 2025, was noted for his focus on Africa, making 5 apostolic trips to the continent and earning the reputation of a pope who had the continent at heart. His meetings with African leaders, including Zambia's Edgar Lungu in 2016, underscored the Vatican's interest in fostering dialogue on social and political challenges. Politics and power dynamics. The relationship between the papacy and political power is inherently complex, as it involves balancing spiritual leadership with the realities of statecraft. In Zambia, the Catholic Church has often acted as a counterbalance to political authority, advocating for accountability and human rights. For example, in 2017, the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops publicly criticized President Edgar Lungu's administration, accusing it of sliding toward dictatorship due to actions like the arrest of opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema on treason charges. Such interventions highlight the Church's role as a moral watchdog, capable of influencing public opinion and pressuring political leaders. However, the Church's involvement in politics is not without controversy. Critics argue that religious institutions can overstep their spiritual mandate, risking entanglement in partisan conflicts. In Zambia, incidents such as the 2024 police raid on Bishop Clement Mulenga's office during a meeting with Edgar Lungu raised concerns about the state's perception of the Church as a political actor. This event underscored the tension between faith-based advocacy and state security concerns, illustrating how religious figures can become embroiled in political disputes. Power and global influence. The papacy's influence extends beyond Zambia to the global stage, where the Vatican engages with world powers like the United States and the United Kingdom. The Vatican's diplomatic corps, one of the oldest in the world, facilitates dialogue on issues such as peace, migration, and climate change, which are particularly relevant to African nations. In Zambia, papal visits and meetings with leaders like Lungu have often been framed as opportunities to align national policies with Catholic social teaching, which emphasizes justice, peace, and the common good. The interplay of Pope, politics, and power in Zambia raises broader questions about the role of religious institutions in governance. Can the Church remain a neutral arbiter in a politically polarized environment? How does its moral authority translate into tangible political influence? These questions are particularly pertinent in the context of Edgar Lungu's presidency and the subsequent political dynamics in Zambia, which we will explore in the following sections. Who was Edgar Lungu? Edgar Chagwa Lungu, November 11, 1956 to June 5, 2025, was a pivotal figure in Zambian politics, serving as the 6th president of Zambia from January 26, 2015 to August 24, 2021. His life and career reflect the complexities of Zambia's political landscape, marked by rapid rises to power, polarizing leadership, and a contentious legacy. This section provides a detailed biography of Lungu, tracing his early life, political ascent, presidency, and eventual decline, while critically examining his impact on Zambia. Political ascent. Lungu's entry into politics was was relatively late, but meteoric. In 1996, he ran as an independent candidate for the Chiwama constituency, but lost to Kristen Tembo of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy (MMD). His political breakthrough came in 2011 when he joined the Patriotic Front (PF), a party founded by Michael Sata. Elected as a member of parliament for Chiwama, Lungu quickly rose through the ranks, serving as deputy minister in the vice president's office, minister of home affairs, minister of defense, and minister of justice under Sata's administration. Sata's death in October 2014 triggered a leadership crisis within the PF, and Lungu emerged as a compromise candidate at the party's convention in Kabwe. His unassuming demeanor and ability to bridge factional divides within the PF made him an appealing choice. In the January 2015 presidential by-election, Lungu narrowly defeated opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema of the United Party for National Development (UPND), securing the presidency to complete Sata's term. Presidency 2015 to 2021. Lungu's presidency was characterized by ambitious economic goals, political controversies, and a deepening rivalry with Hichilema. His administration prioritized economic diversification, aiming to reduce Zambia's reliance on copper mining by promoting agriculture and energy investments. Lungu sought foreign partnerships, particularly with China, to fund infrastructure projects, but these efforts were criticized for increasing Zambia's debt burden, making it Africa's most indebted nation by 2021. His first full term began after the August 2016 election, where he again narrowly defeated Hichilema with 50.32% of the vote, avoiding a runoff by a slim margin. The election was marred by allegations of irregularities, and Hichilema's legal challenge to nullify the results was unsuccessful. Lungu's tenure saw significant infrastructure development, including roads and regional connectivity, but critics argued that these gains came at the cost of economic mismanagement, high unemployment, and rising debt. Lungu's governance style drew accusations of authoritarianism. In 2017, the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops labeled his administration a dictatorship due to actions such as Hichilema's arrest on treason charges for failing to yield to Lungu's motorcade. The politicization of the police and restrictions on opposition activities further fueled perceptions of democratic backsliding. Lungu's government also faced allegations of corruption, with investigations targeting his associates and family members, including his wife, Esther, and daughter, Tassila. Post-presidency and death. After losing the 2021 election to Hichilema by a wide margin, Lungu briefly stepped back from politics, but returned in 2023, criticizing Hichilema's government for alleged persecution, including corruption charges against his family and restrictions on his movements. In November 2024, Lungu was selected as the candidate for the Tons Alliance for the 2026 elections, but the Constitutional Court barred him from running, ruling that his 2015 to 2016 term counted as a full term, disqualifying him under Zambia's two-term limit. Lungu's health deteriorated in his later years. He suffered from achalasia, a rare esophageal disorder, which led to a hypoglycemic attack in 2021. In early 2025, he traveled to South Africa for specialized treatment, and on June 5, 2025, he died at Mediclinic Medforum in Pretoria due to cardiac complications from surgery. His death at age 68 sparked national mourning in Zambia and Mozambique, but also ignited a bitter dispute over his burial, reflecting the deep political divisions he left behind. Esther Lungu's hidden conversations. Esther Lungu, the widow of Edgar Lungu, has been a figure of intrigue in Zambian politics, particularly due to allegations of hidden conversations and involvement in controversial activities during and after her husband's presidency. This section examines Esther Lungu's role, the allegations surrounding her, and the broader implications of her actions in the context of Zambia's political landscape. Allegations of hidden conversations. The phrase, Esther Lungu's hidden conversations, likely refers to allegations of behind-the-scenes dealings, particularly related to corruption and political maneuvering. In 2021, Zambian investigators drafted a confidential memo alleging that Edgar Lungu had accumulated wealth through corrupt activities, with connections to Zambian Swazi businessman Michelo Shikantu, whose company, Inyatsi Road Construction, was accused of offering bribes to high-profile individuals, including Lungu's associates. While Esther was not directly named in the memo, her family's entanglement in corruption probes raised questions about her involvement in or knowledge of such activities. Post-2021, Esther and her daughter Tassila faced corruption charges, including allegations of stealing cars, which they denied. These charges fueled speculation about hidden conversations, private discussions, or agreements that may have occurred within the Lungu family or with political allies to protect their interests. The lack of transparency in these legal proceedings, combined with the Lungu's claims of persecution by Hichilema's government, contributed to public intrigue about Esther's role. Funeral dispute and public stance. Esther Lungu's prominence grew during the dispute over Edgar Lungu's burial in 2025. The Lungu family, led by Esther, resisted the Zambian government's plan for a state funeral presided over by President Hichilema, citing Edgar's explicit wish that Hichilema not be involved. Esther's visible distress during court proceedings in South Africa, where the family sought to bury Lungu privately, underscored her central role in advocating for her husband's wishes. The family's spokesperson, Makibi Zulu, accused the government of deviating from agreed funeral arrangements, suggesting that Esther and her children were privy to of private negotiations that broke down. These hidden conversations likely involved discussions with government officials, foreign diplomats, and the Patriotic Front (PF), reflecting Esther's efforts to navigate a politically charged situation while protecting her family's interests. Implications and speculation. The allegations surrounding Esther Lungu highlight the challenges faced by political families in Zambia, where personal and political spheres often overlap. The corruption charges against her and Tassila, combined with the funeral dispute, have fueled speculation about her influence behind the scenes. Critics argue that Esther may have played a role in shielding family assets or coordinating with PF loyalists to maintain political relevance after Lungu's presidency. Supporters, however, view her as a victim of political vendettas targeted to weaken the PF's influence. The lack of concrete evidence about specific hidden conversations underscores the need for skepticism. Zambia's polarized political climate, where accusations of witchcraft and occult motives surfaced during the funeral dispute, suggests that speculation about Esther's actions may be exaggerated or politically motivated. Her role, while significant, remains shrouded in ambiguity, reflecting the broader opacity of Zambia's post-Lungu political dynamics. Pope Leo's alleged influence on Zambia. The question of Pope Leo XIV's alleged influence on Zambia is speculative, given that he was sworn in as Pope in early 2025, shortly before Edgar Lungu's death, and thus had limited time to exert significant influence on Zambian affairs. This section explores the potential for papal influence in Zambia, drawing on historical precedents, the role of Pope Francis, and the expectations surrounding Pope Leo XIV's papacy. Context: Pope Leo XIV's ascension. Pope Leo XIV, born Robert Francis Prevost, was elected in 2025 as the successor to Pope Francis, who was noted for his engagement with Africa. As an American-born Pope, Leo XIV's selection disappointed some Africans who hoped for the first African Pope, such as Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo Bisungu of the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, African Catholics, including those in Zambia, have generally welcomed his papacy, with Cardinal Ambongo describing his election as guided by the Holy Spirit. Given the recency of his papacy, there is no direct evidence of Pope Leo XIV's influence on Zambia as of August 2025. However, the question invites speculation about how his leadership might shape Zambia's political and social landscape, particularly in the context of Lungu's death and the ensuing political tensions. Historical precedent. Papal influence in Zambia. The Catholic Church has a long history of influencing Zambian society, particularly through its advocacy for social justice and democracy. During Edgar Lungu's presidency, Pope Francis met with him in 2016, discussing issues such as poverty, social inequality, and climate change. The meeting, held in the Vatican's Apostolic Palace, was described as cordial, with Pope Francis praising the Church's contributions to Zambia's education, healthcare, and social sectors. This engagement suggests that the papacy can influence national leaders by reinforcing Catholic social teaching and encouraging policies aligned with these values. The Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops has also played a direct role in political discourse. In 2017, the bishops criticized Lungu's administration for democratic backsliding, a stance that resonated with opposition groups and civil society. Such interventions demonstrate the Church's ability to shape public opinion and hold leaders accountable, a role that Pope Leo XIV could potentially continue. Potential influence of Pope Leo XIV. As the leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics, Pope Leo XIV has the potential to influence Zambia through diplomatic engagements, public statements, and apostolic visits. Africa, with 281 million Catholics, is the fastest-growing region for Catholicism, making it a priority for the Vatican. In Zambia, where political divisions deepened after Lungu's death, the Pope could play a unifying role by advocating for reconciliation and respect for cultural traditions, such as honoring the wishes of Lungu's family regarding his burial. The funeral dispute, which pitted Lungu's family against the Hichilema government, offers a potential entry point for papal influence. Pope Leo XIV could, for instance, issue a statement calling for dialogue and respect for both national traditions and family wishes, echoing the Vatican's emphasis on peace and coexistence. Such an intervention would align with the Church's historical role as a mediator in African conflicts. Faith versus politics. Africa's struggle. The tension between faith and politics is a defining feature of Africa's socio-political landscape, where religion often intersects with governance, identity, and power struggles. In Zambia, this struggle is particularly pronounced due to its status as a Christian nation and the active role of religious institutions in public life. This section explores the broader African context, Zambia's specific experience, and the implications for governance and society. Religion in African politics. Across Africa, religion is a powerful force, with Christianity and Islam shaping public life in profound ways. Christianity, with an estimated 700 million adherents, has grown dramatically in Africa since the end of colonialism, defying predictions that it would decline with independence. The Catholic Church, with 281 million followers, is a major player, alongside rapidly expanding Pentecostal denominations. In countries like Zambia, Nigeria, and Ghana, religious leaders influence political discourse, voter behavior, and policy debates. This influence stems from several factors. First, religion provides a moral framework in societies where state institutions may lack legitimacy capability, or capacity. Second, religious institutions often fill gaps in education, healthcare, and social services, earning them significant goodwill. Third, the spiritual worldview of many Africans, as noted by Bishop Desmond Tutu, prioritizes the spiritual realm over materialistic ideologies like Marxism, making religious leaders key opinion shapers. However, the integration of faith and politics can lead to tensions. Religious leaders may be accused of partisanship, as seen in Zambia when police disrupted a meeting between Bishop Mulna and Edgar Lungu, accusing them of holding an illegal gathering. Conversely, political leaders may exploit religion to consolidate power, as seen in Zambia's declaration as a Christian nation, which some argue was used to bolster political legitimacy. Zambia's experience. In Zambia, the faith-politics nexus is evident in the Catholic Church's role as a critic of government excesses. The 2017 statement by the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops, labeling Lungu's administration a dictatorship, was a bold intervention that resonated with opposition groups but strained relations with the state. Similarly, the Church's condemnation of police actions in 2024 underscored its commitment to defending democratic rights, even at the risk of confrontation. Pentecostal churches also play a significant role in Zambia, often aligning with political figures to gain influence. During Lungu's presidency, his Baptist faith and engagement with religious leaders helped to maintain a broad base of support. However, this also led to accusations that he used religion to deflect criticism of his governance, particularly on issues like corruption and economic mismanagement. Challenges and conflicts. The struggle between faith and politics in Africa often centers on issues like governance, human rights, and social justice. Religious institutions advocate for the poor and marginalized, but their involvement can provoke backlash from governments wary of their influence. In Zambia, the funeral dispute over Edgar Lungu highlighted how religious and cultural values can clash with political agendas. The Lungu family's insistence on honoring Edgar's wishes, rooted in personal and possibly religious convictions, conflicted with the government's push for a state funeral, which it framed as a national and Christian duty. Another challenge is the divergence between religious teachings and political realities. For example, the Catholic Church's stance on issues like same-sex marriage and LGBTQ+ rights, which are broadly opposed in Africa, creates tension with global human rights agendas. In Zambia, where traditional values often align with religious doctrine, such issues can complicate the Church's role as a mediator. The global angle, US, UK, and Vatican power. The interplay of global powers like the United States, United Kingdom, and the Vatican in Zambia's political and social landscape reflects the broader dynamics of international influence in Africa. This section examines how these actors have shaped Zambia's trajectory, particularly during and after Edgar Lungu's presidency, and the implications for its sovereignty and development. The United States. The US has historically engaged with Zambia through aid, trade, and diplomatic initiatives, particularly in areas like health, education, and governance. During Lungu's presidency, the US expressed concerns about democratic backsliding, especially following the 2017 arrest of Hakainde Hichilema. The US Embassy in Lusaka issued statements urging respect for human rights and the rule of law, reflecting Washington's broader agenda of promoting democracy in Africa. However, US influence in Zambia is complicated by economic competition with China, which invested heavily in Zambia's infrastructure under Lungu. The US has sought to counterbalance China's presence through initiatives like the Millennium Challenge Corporation, which funds development projects. The Lungu administration's alignment with China strained US-Zambia relations, as Washington viewed Chinese loans as contributing to Zambia's debt crisis. The United Kingdom. As Zambia's former colonial power, the UK maintains significant ties through trade, aid, and cultural connections. The UK's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office has supported programs in Zambia aimed at poverty reduction and governance reform. During Lungu's presidency, the UK expressed concerns about electoral integrity and press freedom, particularly after the 2016 election controversies. The UK's influence also extends to legal and financial oversight, given Zambia's integration into global financial systems. Allegations of corruption involving Lungu and his associates, such as the 2019 memo linking him to Eswatini-based businessman Michelo Shikantu, drew attention from international observers, including UK-based organizations like the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists. The UK's role in Zambia is thus both supportive and critical, balancing development aid with calls for accountability. The Vatican. The Vatican's influence in Zambia, as discussed earlier, is primarily moral and diplomatic. Pope Francis's 2016 meeting with Lungu highlighted the Vatican's interest in Zambia's social and environmental challenges. The Catholic Church's extensive network in Zambia amplifies the Vatican's voice, particularly through the Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops, which has challenged government policies on multiple occasions. Under Pope Leo XIV, the Vatican's role in Zambia could evolve to address post-Lungu political tensions. The funeral dispute, which involved South African courts and international diplomacy, offers a potential avenue for Vatican mediation, given its experience in conflict resolution. The Vatican's global influence also allows it to coordinate with the US and UK on issues like poverty alleviation and climate change, creating a triangular dynamic of soft power in Zambia. Conclusion. Zambia's future after Lungu. Lungu? Edgar Lungu's death in June 2025 marked a turning point for Zambia, exposing deep political divisions and raising questions about the country's trajectory. This section assesses Zambia's future in the post-Lungu era, considering political, social, and economic challenges, as well as the role of faith and international actors. Political landscape. Lungu's death left a leadership vacuum in the Patriotic Front, which faces internal factionalism and a lack of a unifying figure. The PF struggles, combined with Hichilema's consolidation of power, suggest that the United Party for National Development (UPND) will dominate the 2026 elections. However, Hichilema's government must address perceptions of vindictiveness, particularly in its handling of Lungu's family and supporters, to foster national unity. The funeral dispute, which remains unresolved as of August 2025, has deepened public distrust in the government. Historians like Sishiwa argue that Hichilema's insistence on controlling Lungu's burial risks fueling conspiracy theories, including beliefs in occult motives. A more conciliatory approach, such as respecting the family's wishes, could help bridge divides and strengthen Zambia's democratic institutions. Economic challenges. Zambia's economic woes, including high debt, unemployment, and reliance on copper, persist post-Lungu. Hichilema's administration has prioritized debt restructuring and anti-corruption measures, but progress is slow. The involvement of international actors like the US, UK, and China will be crucial in providing financial support and investment, but Zambia must balance these partnerships to avoid dependency. Social and religious dynamics. The Catholic Church and other religious institutions will continue to play a pivotal role in Zambia's social fabric. Pope Leo XIV's papacy offers an opportunity to promote reconciliation and social justice, particularly if the Vatican engages directly with Zambia's political leaders. The Church's historical advocacy for the poor and marginalized positions it as a potential mediator in post-Lungu conflicts. International influence. The US, UK, and Vatican will shape Zambia's future through their respective agendas. The US and UK can support governance reforms and economic recovery, while the Vatican can advocate for peace and cultural sensitivity. However, Zambia must assert its agency to ensure that foreign influence aligns with national priorities. Outlook. Zambia's future depends on its ability to navigate political polarization, economic challenges, and the faith-politics nexus. Hichilema's leadership will be tested by his ability to unify the nation and address systemic issues like corruption and inequality. The legacy of Edgar Lungu, both as a unifying figure for the PF and a polarizing leader, will continue to influence Zambia's trajectory, but the country has an opportunity to forge a more inclusive and stable future.